I'm so glad you're here because we have some things to talk about. Before we dive into it, I think we need to acknowledge what your Instagram's doing right now, because I guarantee it's showing you the next best journal that's going to make sure that you adhere to all your goals. And I'm sure that it's also showing you that workout plan that's going to radically change your life. Oh, and there's also this class that you should take. It's really going to shake things up for your love life. No. Did it work last year? Did it work this? No. What we really need to do is slow it down. I know that we always talk at this time of year about how you have to put your foot on the accelerator and do more and do more and do more. And that's all everyone seems to want to talk about. That's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about slowing down. I want to talk about you. And I want to talk about how we can make this next year the best by looking backwards just a little bit. So here's a question. Do you remember your resolution from last year? Probably not. The vast majority of people abandon their resolutions by February. So I'm not really a pro resolutions gal. If you're an OG, you're going to know about my series of colorful language posts that I made, blog posts that I made way back when in 2019, 18, also 17. About resolutions and my deep hatred of them. I think resolutions do two things that really damage your mindset. The first is making you constantly wait for that fresh start. I'll start on Monday. Monday's a nice fresh slate. Ooh, I botched Monday. Better wait until the next Monday. Ooh, I botched this year. Better wait until the next year. No. Start today. The best time to start investing is yesterday. The second best time is today. Same thing when we're talking about investing in yourself. Best time is to start now. And the second thing I think that resolutions do that is just deeply problematic is they kind of set you up for failure. They set you up with this goal and this thing that you're supposed to do and you're supposed to achieve. And even if you make it 80% of the way, which is a huge goal, it still can leave you with that feeling of, well, I didn't quite make the mark. I know it's December. I know it might feel like we're being graded. I know the new year is literally right around the corner. But please remember that this past year didn't have to be your everything. Even if your resolution was to make it that this past year mattered, even if you can't quantify exactly what magical thing you did. So why do we feel this way? Why do we feel like we're being graded right now? Why does it feel like if we're in the same place that we were in last year, that's somehow a descriptor of who we are as a person? I think it's because that sentence has a second half that we often say inside, which is, what does that say about me? If I'm in the same place that I was in last year, what does that say about me? Does it say I'm someone who doesn't have follow through? Does it say I'm someone who just can never do it? I don't think so. I reject that entire idea. I think that's self-doubt telling you a really cruel story. And I think we can rewrite that story. Fear does not mean that you failed. Fear means that you're ready to change. Fear is that kick in the butt from your body, your spirit, the ether, your soul, wherever you feel like it's coming from. That is the message. Get up. Get going, get moving. And now I don't want to sound like Kim Kardashian because I know problematic lines here. Okay, let's acknowledge the fact that there are some strong barriers in place, right? If your goal is financial freedom, I love that goal. I have that goal. You probably can't work a minimum wage job and reach that goal. And that might be the only job that's available to you right now. But I still think that your fear is extremely valid. And I think your goals for change and your motivations are still extremely valid and deserve the spotlight so much more than any part of you that's going to look back over the last year as a failure. My goal for you is that your fear becomes your curiosity, not your panic. I want it to be the thing that makes you ask more questions rather than feeling like it's a roadblock. Okay. We're going to do a little exercise together. This is something I love to do. I do it throughout the year. I do it throughout months, but especially at the end of the year, it can be really, really beneficial. When we zoom all the way out and we look at the last year, all the way from bird's eye view, we flatten it. And it's really hard to see the highs and the lows, the things we went through, those little ebbs and flows. It's really hard to recall them. Unless you're someone with superb memory, our memories are actually not that great as human beings. We often think they're better than they are. And a great way to prevent that zoomed out depiction of your year from being the only view you have of it is to go into your camera roll Go month by month. Find your highlights. Do a little highlight reel for yourself. You had good moments, I promise. Go through and find them. And your good moment could be the size of a pea. It could be reading a good book. It could be that night that you woke up so rested. It could be making a latte at home for yourself and realizing that you don't need to spend $8 when you go out. It could be making a latte at home for yourself and then feeling very valid in spending $8 on a latte when you go out because you just don't have the chops. Appreciation takes time, so just pick 1 or 2 moments from each month. And before you know it, you've got a dozen things that you did this year or that took place this year that were really powerful and positive in your life. You're your harshest critic, but you also know yourself best. And while this practice can be one that's retrospective, know that moving into the next year, be cognizant of this practice. And maybe next time something happens that you normally wouldn't pull out your phone for, pull it out, snap a couple photos. And that way, when the time comes, you'll have this little folder already ready for yourself to look back on. I even do this with my inbox. When I get positive feedback at work in the form of an email, boop, drop that into a folder. And the next time I have self-doubt, boom, it's the first thing I open. If it feels like nothing happened, if it feels like you didn't do anything, slow it down, zoom in. Everything matters. Every breath matters, every moment matters, and every time that you went for something that you normally don't go for matters. So make sure that you're giving yourself that credit. There's a metaphor that I want to introduce you to in this next section called the 4-part breath. And while I'm saying metaphor, it's actually a practice within yoga. I remember doing it quite a bit in Ashtanga yoga. You inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, exhale for 4 counts, and hold out for 4 counts. And if I remember correctly, you often work up towards inhaling for 15 and then having this 4-part breath actually equal a full minute. But something that I think is so cool about it is that to me, it really becomes a metaphor for the seasons of life. You inhale, that's spring. It's filling you up. You hold in all of that bounty, all of that fulfillment. That's summer. You exhale, that's the release of autumn. And you hold out, that's kind of that desolate nature of winter. Ooh, I have a question for you. What season was last year? And what season is next year bringing? While I'm saying it equals the seasons within one calendar year, I actually want to apply it a little bit more broadly here and say that each year can be a different season of your life. Years can be different seasons of your life. So maybe this year was a winter year for you. Maybe that's why it feels kind of bleak. Maybe this past year was a spring year for you, and maybe you're looking toward the summer of the next year or a continuation of spring. Wherever you fall on that spectrum, naming it can be a really powerful way of ensuring that it doesn't feel like this enigma of time that just left you with certain emotions, but you can connect them with your season of life and your own personal season of growth. The season of life that is the most clear in my mind is the year I was pregnant. I got pregnant right at the start of the new year. And so I was pregnant from January 1. And that entire year felt like spring. It just felt like growing and abundance and like more and more and more and more. And the birth of my son fell at the end of the year in October, which kind of slid us really nicely into the following year, which was definitely a year of summer and so much reaping of all of the work that pregnancy did for me. But it also had a shade of spring in there because we were handling this new baby that was figuring out its life. And he was definitely in the spring of his life, which just pulled our family into it. So it was a really, really magical time. And I'm kind of on the heels of that now, having a toddler and having the past 3 if you include pregnancy, years be nothing but build and build and build and build and build. And dude, I am so psyched for the harvest. I just know it's coming. I just know it's next year. And when you think about your life in those kinds of terms, instead of it feeling like you're in this cycle that's just never ending and January becomes February, becomes March, no, it's last year becomes this year. It's spring becomes summer. And learn to ebb and flow with that. It can be really helpful, especially in those bleak, desolate winter years. Growth does not need to be dramatic. Growth can be very, very, very small. Growth can be very, very, very quiet. And while some years, yes, are going to give you these massive mountains of change and or valleys of depth, most years are going to be rolling hills. Steadiness doesn't photograph well. That steadiness doesn't always show up on Instagram, but that steadiness is real. And I can tell you from looking back on my more chaotic years and my more steady years, the steady ones are the ones I hold closest to my heart, even if the chaotic ones are the ones that spiked my adrenaline and my dopamine and got me buzzing. That's not the kind of energy that's tethering to yourself. That's not the kind of energy that's grounding. And I'm a fervent believer that no matter who you are in life, even the most extreme risk takers, being grounded is truly the most important thing for us to really, really feel connected to ourselves, to our purpose, and to whatever moves we want to make in life. That grounding into the self is also what allows you to look back on years that were just rolling hills rather than these massive mountains of change and feel really proud of that steadiness. It's hard to maintain steadiness, especially if you're a person like myself who kind of thrives on extremes. Like, I was a runner for a really long time. Did I just run, 5Ks and half marathons? No, I had to run ultras. I had to do big things. I had to go run 10,000 feet of vert trail runs. I'm like, why? I just happened to thrive on that type of popping energy in my 20s. And the more that I enter my 30s, a long walk does it, girl. Makes me very happy. I do miss running sometimes. I digress. Let's not do this. This is about you. This is not about me. But my Instagram is going to be right here if you want to chat. I'm going to leave you with this. What would feel like one small but truly honest to you change that you could bring into your life? It might not happen on January 1st. It doesn't need to be a resolution. It doesn't need to be big and bold. And remember that you don't need to change anything. If you're happy right now, if your flow is flowing, let it live. Let it live. But if you are looking for change, you didn't miss your shot. You're not too old. You don't have to keep waiting. You're not too young. You can do things. You are very capable. I just know it. And you're allowed to begin as quietly as you want to. And if you want to be loud about it, be loud about it. But I think sometimes that carries other pressures. You might thrive on those pressures. You might not. So do what's going to work for you. You get to create the environment that you marinate in this next year. You have that power. So pick one with the flavors you actually want. Just remember that nothing about your timing is wrong. And you get to enter this next year however you want. And you get to end this year however you want as well. And that can very much be with the mindset that this past year did everything it needed to do for you, even if all it did was let you breathe. Thank you so much for sitting with me. This has been so fun. I love chatting about these things with you guys. If you want to keep the conversation going, don't forget that my Instagram and Substack are linked below, and those are great places to chat with me further, as well as in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe in reverse order, and we'll talk soon. Bye, my friend.